Avengers Endgame. This is my spoiler review. I did a pretty vague, non-spoiler review on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. You can read that there if you want. Originally, I was definitely planning on doing a spoiler review, and then after seeing the movie, and I changed my mind for a while. There's kind of an oversaturation of Endgame stuff out there. Everybody and their mother has some take on the movie, where things go from here, breaking like every aspect of the movie down. And I read or watched, my fair share of them, and I was kind of burned out. So I don't think anybody really doesn't feel like they're missing much if they don't hear, all my nitpicking and whatnot on this movie. But I'm gonna go ahead and do this one anyways. I actually did end up seeing the movie a second time. Matter of fact, I gave the movie I believe I gave it a 4 out of 5. I'm gonna stick with that. I think I like it a little bit better than I did the first time, but I don't think I'm gonna raise my grade. And I usually don't do it like this, but I think I'm gonna kind of go through the movie a little bit and pick some stuff out. Also, one thing, as little as a lot of us knew about the movie going in, I think fans were pretty good about guessing some major story beats, and so there wasn't actually many surprises as there could have been, because I think we correctly guessed or partially guessed what was going to happen in some situations. But so, anyways, first act, we see the quick flashback of Hawkeye and his family. They all get dusted, which again, everyone expected that to happen. We knew we needed something to make him become Ronin. We also knew that the scene in the movie shows him training someone with a bow and arrow, so it's pretty easy to put 2 and 2 together. Makes sense that it starts the movie off. The next big surprise, how quickly Iron Man is rescued by Captain Marvel, which again, most people expected her to be the one to save him, so that wasn't that big of a shock. I guess we have to assume that the end credit scene, or really the mid-credit scene from Captain Marvel, where she meets the Avengers, happens first, and then she goes out in space and rescues Tony and Nebula. One thing we didn't see in the trailers is how emaciated Tony Stark was after 20 some odd days in space with little food and water. So that was a small, I don't want to call it a surprise, but small detail. Shocked how crazy, not even crazy, but how much of an asshole Tony was when he got to Earth. I mean, he had his reasons, but they basically took him out of the fight. And this is the first kind of bigger surprise in the movies, that we all go to Thanos immediately, and he's already used the stones to destroy the stones, and Thor kills him. Which, like I said, that was probably the biggest surprise. I think nobody saw that coming. There's definitely stuff in the trailers, you could tell that there are scenes that happen not long after the snap, and you could tell those scenes that took place probably years later. So the next thing we see is the 5-year time jump, which kind of, again, blends into what everybody sort of knew was going to happen. Little cheesy, little random that the Rat hits a switch for Scott Lang to get kicked out of the quantum realm. But at the end of the day, you just need something to happen. There's a million different things that could have happened. They could have did. Some kid could have been playing with the control switch. Some guy could have been messing with the van. I mean, there's a lot of things they could have did. The Rat was probably the cheesiest. But at the end of the day, you need him out of there to continue the story. Great emotional moment when he meets the teenager Cassie, older version of his daughter. Again, the casting was leaked that an older actress would be playing his daughter, so you figured he would run into her. I think a lot of people early on were assuming that she would be stature and she'd be a superhero at this point, but that's not the case. Now, of course, we get at least a famous scene in the trailers where he goes to meet with the Avengers, as expected by pretty much every fan. They want to use the quantum realm to time travel and get to the stones like earlier. Definitely a bit of a surprise to see that Tony did get married and did have a daughter. Really cute kid. I heard some people knock her acting abilities, but I felt she came off as just a real little girl. Like, she wasn't trying to act. She's just like a little kid and interacting with her dad. So actually, I thought that worked out great. Obviously, we also saw from the leaked art and some official art that we'd probably get something close to the Professor Hulk, which we basically did. We see Bruce Banner now is the Hulk full time. And I said not that big of a shock there. It was interesting seeing it, especially because his face was so much more Mark Ruffalo than it had previously been, and I think they really caught the nuances of his face and just made it green and put on a big muscular body. But basically, we roll into our time heists, and we knew from the leaked set photos that they'd be going back to the Battle of New York in Avengers, so of course we do get that. And as cool as the sequence is on paper, this is where my first big problem with the movie is, and this is where actually I deduct it. It's basically the whole second act is massive fan service, which on the one hand I love it. Like here's Alexander Pierce shows up, this character shows up, that character shows up, here's this, and it's as a fan of oh my god, and it makes sense that we didn't see the Hydra double agents show up as S.H.I.E.L.D. and take the scepter. And we didn't see it, but we knew it happened later on. But it's cool, like, okay, now we're seeing it. Obviously, when they made the first Avengers, they didn't know about any of this, so that wasn't really in the scripts. I guess you could call it a retcon. But anyways, the whole thing, it just felt like a big tree tour. Like, they've made it, all these movies, 10 years, and now it's like they're kind of celebrating, look at our past accomplishments. And what it really reminded me of is all these TV shows when they hit like their 100th episode, and they do all these flashback elements, or like good examples of Flash this season. They hit the 100th episode, and Barry actually had to go back in time to basically every season and get some kind of doodad or device that he needed. So it gave him a chance to go back to season 1 and see Dawn that was really, still posing as well. So you got to go back to this timeline and deal with Zoom, this timeline and deal with Savitar. And that's kind of felt like Avengers. Like, okay, let's go back to this movie, we'll go back to this movie. And it just kind of felt like this kind of celebratory, fan servicey, hey, we made it this far, kind of thing. And I don't know, it just kind of took it away from me. It didn't feel as grand of a scale as it should for some reason. I don't know. It just didn't really do it for me. Like I just said, like probably 5 times. Also got a little corny. They lose the Tesseract in the first attempt because the Hulk is mad about the stairs and he hits the door and it happens to hit Tony, who's more thinking about lunch than anything else, and he loses the Tesseract, which is just silly. It just felt like something the Legends of Tomorrow would have did, where they try to do something in the past and somebody screws it up worse. So it just seemed kind of boneheaded for like the A-Team type heroes to do. But other than that, there's some great moments throughout these previous films. I love Cap fighting Cap, and you get the riff on the I could do this all day, or you get Cap in the elevator, we think we're going to get another Winter Soldier beatdown, and then he flips the script and goes with the Hail Hydra, which also ties into that classic comic book panel where Cap was briefly brainwashed to be a Hydra agent, and he says Hail Hydra. That actually generated a lot of controversy, and that writer got death threats. But I could probably go on and on about a little crazy cool shit that happened in those flashbacks. Then we get the bonus flashback, we go back to the 70s, you get your Stan Lee cameo, which actually wasn't that special. It was just, okay, there he is, and nothing really too crazy about it. But again, we get back to the fan service. We got a young Hank Pym, we got a young Howard Stark, we get a glimpse of Peggy, which of course the Howard stuff and the Peggy stuff ties into the story arcs for Cap and Iron Man. And then on top of that, this is where we get the next couple twists. As soon as you see that Natasha and Hawkeye are going to Vormir, one of them's not going to make it, and obviously you kind of assume Hawkeye because he's just been the most expendable character throughout the series. So of course, after some one-upsmanship between the two of them, Black Widow ends the one dead, which means either they're going to bring her back somehow, or her solo movie that's coming up relatively soon probably is going to have to be a origin story flashback. Then meanwhile, the other big twist is that when Nebula's in the past, her neural network links with her past version's neural network, and basically Thanos figures out what's going on, and he's able to eventually make his way to the future. So of course that jumps to the future again, and the Hulk puts on the gauntlet, snaps everybody back, which I was again a bit surprised. I thought the thing would be that Thanos gets there before they could use the gauntlet, and there's a big fight, and then finally they get to use it and bring everybody back. But they brought it back early, and then Thanos attacks, which then I thought everybody was dead, and we were going to have to do some other time travel, but no, everyone's survived. And we go to the big 3-on-1 fight, which we've seen from the trailer, which ended up being pretty cool, because Thor, who's still fat, which I did not bring out until this point, and I probably should have. We had the fat Thor. Didn't do it for me as a character. He's already made him kind of a lunkhead in Ragnarok, so he's not the sharpest tool in the shed to begin with, and he seems like he gets a little bit dumber as his story's been progressing. Now you make him a fat drunken slob, and he's dressing like the Big Lebowski, and he has a couple of decent acting moments, but you almost get taken out of it because he's so disheveled and fat and out of shape and drunk. And it's like, even when he has this big moment with his mom, it's harder for the acting to come through all that. And then the fact, when you get to the end, I was going to say, Thor powers up, he's got Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, and he's still a fat ass. He just has like better armor that covers his gut, and he didn't get skinny magically. But you have the big Thor down, and then of course, from this point on, the action is insane. There's awesome fan moments. Cap getting Mjolnir finally, throwing that around, chumping lightning. The shield gets beat up, and then everybody and their mother shows up to help fight. I mean, just pretty much every superhero that's still living or recently got brought back from the snap just shows up and joins the battle. I mean, that's just cool action. It's almost too much to watch because there's so much going on. Nice emotional moment with Tony and Spider-Man. And then, of course, you get to the big moment. Tony sacrifices himself, wipes out Thanos and his army, and ends up dying. Which is a very emotional moment, especially seeing the reaction pretty much right in a row. You had Rhodey, and then Peter, and then Pepper. So, super emotional moment there. Brings up a lot of questions about time travel and how it works. Because Nebula shot her 2014 self, and Thanos and his army from 2014 are dead. But everything else that happened after that is still existent. Like, everyone's still around, the future Nebula is still around. It gets real fishy. Like, did they kind of apply, like, you change anything in the past, as long as you return the Infinity Stones, everything will be okay. But then we skip to the end where Cap goes back in time, puts all the stones back, which is a whole other can of worms there, because it was hard enough for them to take the stones the first time, and then they try to put them back, and the fact that they were all different when they took them. Like, the Tesseract had this Space Stone, and they had to crack the Tesseract and take it out, and they had to open the Scepter to take the Mind Stone out, so now all of a sudden this stuff's got to get back, where it was. They got to put the ether back in the Jane, which is another weird one, because it was damn near impossible to get the ether out of her in Thor Dark World, and then here they just did it with a little device. Rocket just took it out of it. That could have pretty much changed the entire Thor Dark World movie if somebody had that little stick. And then you also could have had a great moment of Cap meeting the Red Skull as the Stone Keeper, which could have been a pretty interesting interaction. And then, of course, what happens when he gives his Soul Stone back, because they traded Black Widow's soul for it, and could that be how her soul comes back, or is this, nope, sorry, we keep it. And then, of course, Cap basically lives his life out in the 40s, comes back as an old man, gives his shield to the Falcon. If that was a past alternate reality, then Cap shouldn't have been able to live through it and then show up now. And if it was this reality, that means this whole time Cap's been hiding in the shadows, married to Peggy and not interacting and saving the world like the hero that he is normally does. No post-credit scenes. I think the little dance between Peggy and Cap actually could have worked as a post-credit scene. Like, I think that would have been worth sitting around. You could get this nice little cute moment, and you're not really foreshadowing anything, but obviously they just wanted everyone to get it up front. And I don't know, that's about all I really got to say. I could go on forever about this movie. I just want to kind of get some thoughts out there, kind of clarify maybe some of the things I liked or didn't like about it from the other review. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.